All right, so this video is going to be about a little bit of a touchy subject on how some people can be when it comes to religion, but it's actually not as much about religion as it is about power and control. But in this video, we're going to get into that a little bit. So hopefully won't offend too many people and everybody will get a little bit of value from it. So a bit of a touchy subject in this video. I had to ask the question, what do you want God to do for you? What do you want God to do for you? Welcome back to the channel. I am Sherman Rivers, and in this video, I'm going to talk about that question that came up in a conversation. You know, what do you want God to do for you? Was the question that I had to ask, and some of the answers that I got back were pretty interesting. So let's talk about that. Like I've already mentioned, this is about power and control, you know, and the nuances that go along with that. The inner control, outer external control, inner power, external power, all the forces at play, and how we really, in mass, tend to think about these things. So again, the question was, what do you want God to do for you? And what I was looking for, and what I'm looking for from you, is a specific answer, specific action that you would want God to take on your behalf. And that's how I posed the question. What specifically do you want God to do for you? If you could have God do anything, what specifically do you want God to do for you? And as we went through that conversation, you know, one of the things I wanted to discuss or highlight in the first part was the first tenet of the sovereignty paradigm, which is acceptance, right? And we talk about accepting things, accepting people, accepting ourselves, self-acceptance, accepting situations for the now, in the present moment, you know, and seeing what we can change and what can't be changed, and kind of knowing how we need to move based off of that. But in this case, acceptance refers more to things that are beyond our control. That's a simple way to put it. The things you cannot change. So basically, accepting the things you cannot change, like the Lord's Prayer. The courage to change the things you can, the wisdom to know the difference. We're talking about the first part of that, accepting the things that you cannot change. So if you could inquire or request from God anything, would it be something that you can't change, is beyond your power? So since I can't change that, I'm going to ask God to change it for me. And if that is the case, is that something that really should be changed? I mean, if it's not within your power to change it, is it something that should be changed? Or are you asking God to exceed some type of boundary and on your behalf change something that shouldn't be changed? What are your thoughts on that? Let me know in the comment section. Would you ask God to change something that you should just accept? And what about the things that are within your control? Say right now you're 150 pounds overweight. That can change. That's within your control, your power and control to change that. But you have to start somewhere. You have to accept the fact that you're 100 or 150 pounds overweight. So in that scenario, what would you ask God to just magically take away 150 pounds? Is that what you'd ask him to do? Lord, make me 100 pounds lighter? Kind of like with a genie. Was that what you want God to do? Something that's either beyond your control or something that's going to take a lot of work on your behalf? Are you lazy? Is that what it is? Are you so lazy and unwilling to do for yourself that you want to ask God to come in and do it for you? Right? And then there's the second tenet, which is responsibility. And this is where it kind of gets really into the weeds, down and dirty. Because the two rules of responsibility, the first one being, don't ask anyone to do anything for you that you can and should do for yourself. So let's back up a little bit. That previous example, if you're overweight and you're eating bad food, wrong, too much food, you're not exercising, you're lazy, maybe you have a genetic issue that predisposes you to gain weight. Maybe it's not all bad on your behalf, but there's some things that you could be doing better. So that rule of responsibility, would you want to shift your responsibilities to God? Would you ask God to do something for you that you can and should do for yourself? And I think when you put it in those terms, it just has a whole different feeling to it. It just feels different. Now that someone who might have been praying fervently for a thing might even feel a little bit ashamed if they go back and listen to what they were praying for. So you mean to tell me that you would get down on your knees and give up all your responsibility, thus your power, right? Asking someone, something to come in and do it for you. Is that your prayer? You got this all-powerful entity in your life, and the job you want to give them is the job you could and should do for yourself. Does that sound like that makes sense? And then the other half of that is the second rule. Don't do things for people that they can and should do for themselves. And there's two points I want to make here. One is, if you spin that around, that first example, you're really asking God to do something for you that you can and should do for yourself. So if God was following the rule of responsibilities, that second rule, he would say, that's not my responsibility. Or she would say, it's not my responsibility. That's your responsibility. Why should I do that for you when you can and should do it for yourself? In fact, you're wrong for asking me that. You're in violation. I think it's interesting how if we say God created man and God did this, God did that, that means God ultimately gave you 10 fingers, 10 toes, a brain, gave you everything you need to solve most of your problems, most of your issues, to get by most of the things that would hinder you in life. You were given the tools that you need at birth, and most other things you can learn. So to me, it just seems incredibly lazy to take all of this that we were given, set it to the side, and ask God to do it for us. It's kind of like that baby that can walk. They've learned how to walk, but they don't want to do it because it takes work, it takes effort, and they will cry and cry and cry, trying to get you to pick them up. They will sit there and cry and cry. Now, if you do that and violate rule number 2 and you do something for them that they could and should do for themselves, you're not helping them. And that's the second point I want to get to. When somebody does something for you that you can and should do for yourself, they're not helping you, they're harming you. So again, the question, what do you want God to do for you? Do you want God to do something that's harmful to you? Are you asking God to harm you? Are you asking God to deprive you of the opportunity to learn and grow? Let me know. Let me know. Or am I looking at that question the wrong way? How would you look at that? Is there another way to look at it? A better way to look at it? So basically, You know, we're asking God to violate that second rule, and we should be cognizant of that ourselves. That's how people end up in this space of weakness, perpetual weakness, is because sometimes we put people there, we cripple people, we hinder people by doing things for them that they can and should do for themselves, and then when they really need to get it done on their own, they're looking for somebody else to step in and come and save them. And then as we get older, especially as men, we learn that at some point you're going to be in trouble and nobody's coming to save you. Not even, dare I say it, God. But what are you asking God to do specifically? What are you asking God to do? And then the last tenet of the sovereignty paradigm, the last tenet of the Imperium Paradigma. What is that last tenet? It's free will and the respect of free will. So I approach that question with that tenet. What are you asking God to do for you? Is it something that involves free will? Are you asking God to take away your free will and force you to do something that you need to choose to do or not to do? Or even worse, I don't know if it is worse, equally bad, equally as bad, are you asking God to take away somebody else's free will? To take away someone else's ability to make a choice on your behalf? Now, you wouldn't do that, would you? I mean, because that's brutal. I mean, that's like say you have a crush on a girl, right? And you want her to love you. So you pray and you ask God to make her love you. That is evil, man. That is evil right there. So you're asking God to take away her free will and force her to love you. You wouldn't do something like that, would you? So what are you asking God to do for you? Are you asking God to force you to accept something that you should choose to accept on your own? Are you asking God to change something that's beyond your control that you should be accepting? Are you asking God to handle your responsibilities? Are you asking God to take care of someone else's responsibilities? Are you asking God to take away your free will? Are you asking God to take away someone else's free will? What specifically do you want God to do? Go back and look at all your prayers. Evaluate all those prayers and see if maybe you were out of line when you prayed those prayers. Maybe you were asking God to do something that God shouldn't be doing and God wouldn't be doing. I'm gonna leave you with this right here. And then when I talk about church, I'm talking about the church that I'm most familiar with, which is the Black church. And in that church, you can have sayings that they all mean the same thing, just said a different way. They're like, God's got it. Turn it over to the Lord and he'll work it out. Jesus is gonna work it out. Put it at the feet of God. There's just tons and tons of these sayings. Basically, if you have a problem that you can't solve or you don't think you can solve, turn it over to God and everything's gonna be all right. I'm gonna leave this with you as I land the plane, because this is, I think, one of the most important parts of this message. I'm gonna bring this plane in for landing. But this releasing your responsibility and turning your responsibility over to God, because that's basically what you're doing. Trying to make God responsible for something that you're responsible for is a recipe for failure in life. Imagine you have a utility bill. It's a $200 light bill, right? And it needs to be paid or your power's gonna get cut off. And you follow that guidance that you've been taught all your life, these sayings, that's been just pumped into your ear like spells, just casting spells over your life, just coming in and coming in and coming in. And you follow that guidance because you listen to the words, and that's what the words are telling you to do, and you turn it over to God. Okay, now what? Is God gonna pay your electric bill? Is God gonna take the money out of someone else's hands and pay your bill for you? Is God gonna take away somebody else's free will and force them to do something on your behalf? Is God gonna take over your responsibilities? What do you want God to do? What do you expect God to do when you turn it over to God? Let me know what you think. I really would love to know if maybe I'm way off base here, right? Let me know that in the comment section below. But in any case, do something today to make yourself better. Not a day goes by where I don't do something to become better. Because I know when we become better people, our world becomes a better place. And I will tell you, you are more powerful than you know. It's just a matter of unlocking that power. It's within you. It just needs to be unlocked. That's why I'm here. Be sure to like the video if you like it. Share with somebody else you think could benefit from the message in the video. Check the description down below for some links to other information and a way to connect with me so we can begin to build that community where we can help each other out, pass along this important information. Each one teach one, right? I'll see you on the other side. Peace.